to the show, man. I'm so glad you're here.
Mason, it's been awesome to just see the whole path of your podcast, and I'm glad that I'm here today.
Yeah. Dude, I gotta say, like, I'm sure you know this already, but you were like a kind of like a big inspiration to help for me, like kind of like exploring the production world and getting involved to it. And even just things like, of like how to find the answers. Like I feel like whenever you're like around people who are good at something, you kind of can pick up on it just by watching. Like I remember a specific example. I was on a mobile cam one day, and I had asked you like something about the camera, and you were like, "I'm not sure. I'll have to check the manual." And like that just kind of clicked for me, like, "Oh, that's how I find answers to stuff, like checking the manual." Because like I feel like I fell accustomed to just opening a box and just throwing everything away, you know.
These companies spend a lot of time filling out all of this information that a lot of people throw away, and that's one of the most common things I tell people whenever they're trying to learn something new, especially whenever it comes to technology. Hey, it's in the box. It's this big piece of paper, and it has staples in it, and it's not just, kindling for a fire. If you read it, this has knowledge in it. And if you take the time to go through it all, you're going to be empowered with the knowledge to run the equipment and to maybe even dig deeper and find out, hey, this has a second feature that I can use for this thing. And then you're just making your gear go further.
So like when you open a box with a camera, do you like read the manual, or do you just go back to it if you need to reference something, or like?
So I know for the most part the functions of a camera right when I open the box, because our generation, it came natural.
Mm-hmm.
We've been around cameras for most of our lives, whether it was our grandparents, filming stuff around the house whenever we were younger and they let us use it, and it was like this big thing, to now it's on our phones. So a lot of times whenever I get a brand new thing, I'll be like, all right, the initial, like, cool, all the features, here's how they work. And then I'm going to dig in deeper after that. Especially with my position at Westside, I'm doing my best to use the gear to its fullest. So I'm doing a lot of front end, getting knowledge about it. So I'm making a wise purchase whenever I'm buying gear, because it's not my money. It's
right.
People that are giving to a church that they're like, hey, what's my money being used for whenever I give to a church? I want to make sure I'm stewarding the money well. Obviously, it's something that the church has decided they want to purchase. So what's the best thing for that purchase?
That kind of leads me into something I wanted to ask you about, like working at a church specifically, because I'm sure that you may feel pressures that other people may not feel, like in a regular job, because it's like I don't know, like if you're directing, for example, for one day, like if someone who's operating a camera just isn't quite getting it, how do you, like, I'm sure it might, I don't know, for me it'd be more of pressure, like trying to get them, like coaching them, but still being polite, because like they're volunteers, but it's like, how do you like navigate all that? Is there anything you do, like, do you have any like things you do to get your mind off of work, or like how do you kind of just deal with the pressure of, like, because I mean, working at a church, it's like people probably hold you to a different esteem, I would imagine.
Right, and they should. There's definitely a difference. So hold on, you asked a couple questions. The first one is, how do I, whenever I'm talking to someone that's running a camera, for example, so we have volunteers that are running cameras, how am I guiding them, I guess? And people mess up, and that's natural, and the Bible calls us to be graceful to those people, and I'm not necessarily trying to make a perfect production. That's impossible. There's no way for me to be able to control all of the different variables. And even if I were to control all the variables, I would not be able to do it on my own. So realizing that all these people are giving their time, they're putting in their best effort. I'm praying that they're putting in their best effort at least. And hopefully I'm empowering them to do what they need to do. Now, things come up whenever people mess up, right? And from there, it's like, okay, why? Discover the reason why, and then train. Keep training them. Keep trying to get them to be better. I'm not going to be like, hey, you really messed up that shot. That shot doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. People aren't going to notice that shot. What people are going to notice is God moving in the moment, or the worship, or I don't know, their life being changed is a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good answer.
And then the second question was, could you remind me?
Yeah, just like, I guess, what do you do to kind of to separate yourself from that? to kind of like
you're
go
kind
blow
of
off some
you're
steam.
talking about like being held to a higher standard and then blow off steam.
Yes.
So church leaders should be held at a higher standard. There's definitely times where church leaders are going to mess up, and there's times when, because we're people, and I have to do my best to guard my heart against those things whenever we mess up. And I'm a person just like everybody else. Obviously, I'm not better than anyone. My goal in life is to just grow closer to Christ and to be a humble servant to him.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then to blow off steam, like my biggest things right now, I would say, because those change. I was really into playing guitar for a while, and then I just stopped playing guitar. I think it's like in the process of moving and different things to Springfield. I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, I got where I wanted to get, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if I picked up a guitar, I could kind of do a little bit of stuff, you know? I'm not good. But whenever right now, it's working on the garden because it's just about to be summertime again, and I have a nice garden in my backyard. And so actually yesterday I just planted a bunch of stuff, and I have a little grow operation in my basement. Hopefully the cops don't come to my house when they see the UV lights in my basement, but I promise it's just tomatoes and peppers. And we have some jalapenos and habaneros and some California wonders. Like, it's gonna be it's gonna be a bountiful garden. We had a good one last year, so that's like my wife and I.
The best fruits and veggies come from the garden.
That is absolutely a fact. And we had so much last year, I was considering like selling them off because there was the harvest was plentiful. Wow. There was just so much to it. We just couldn't collect enough. Like, a lot of it ended up on the ground, and squirrels got to it and things like that.
That's awesome.
But we would fill up a whole bowl, and then we just, hey neighbor, do you want some cherry tomatoes? Yeah. We had cherry tomatoes coming out of our ears. But wow. Yeah. So that's one way. Spend a lot of time outside. I like to make, I have a pond that I spend a good amount, like, it's a small, like, garden pond, right? Just make it all beautiful. Try to make that beautiful in a little area where I can go back there, relax and meditate. Mm-hmm. Just think about the day and sit out there in the grass and soak up the sun. The other thing I do is camping, hiking, being out in nature as much as possible to clear the mind. I'm around screens so often. I mean, you think you're around a screen a lot from just being on your phone, but my job is actually like screens constantly, 40 plus hours a week. So anytime I can not look at a screen, I'm going to take the advantage of doing that.
I think it's really cool you not only like do those things, but recognize like the balance like between the nature and like the screen life. Because one thing that like I noticed for me, not necessarily per screens, but just like per work, like I was talking to my best friend Bizzo. He's out in San Diego. Cool. And I'm probably gonna go visit him on spring break, which will be fun.
Are you gonna do a podcast there?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Good.
For sure. Try to get a sister on too, and because I haven't had a female on yet, and I want to have a female.
Oh yeah,
on,
you absolutely should.
Yeah, I want to have a female on. It's just like I don't know. It's been proven difficult for some reason, but anyway, I was talking to him, and it's like about like the things that I do with my day, because I feel like, I've gotten to this point now where it's like with school and this and like all these different things, I love it and I feel so blessed and I'm happy, but it's like I don't have really anything that I do like just for fun. You know what I mean? Like I feel like everything that I do is kind of like for like a goal, or like it feels like I'm working a lot. You know, it feels like I don't have like a thing that I do just because I enjoy that thing. So like, and I've dabbled in different things. Like I've tried to get into the car scene. I've tried like gaming. I've tried like, and this gets pretty close. Like the podcast and stuff gets pretty close because I love doing this, but I don't do this just for fun. I do this for like several reasons. Like, practice my skills, because especially now that I'm a film major at school, it's like all of this and all like it all ties in together. And I think that like being in a film major at school, like school has proven a little bit difficult for me as far as like transitioning from the Army and stuff, but like being in the film thing has helped me tremendously, because I mean, what are we studying all day? Characters, how do they interact with one another, different communication styles, if one person like facial body movements. So like studying that has helped me kind of talk to people throughout campus, if that makes sense, because like in the Army everyone's very direct. You know,
Right.
I'm going to tell you right on the nose what I think. And it's not because that's how it has to be, you know, like,
That's what has to happen to get the job done. And oftentimes in our culture, it's kind of like beating around the bush.
yes.
I don't think that's a good thing. I really think that if people were more direct with each other, more would get done. And also, there's an honesty component to being direct. If you're beating around the bush, often you're not saying what needs to be said. Oftentimes, people say 90% of what the truth is, and they leave out the 10% that's the most important part. And if people moved up to say that 10%, that's really important. And then that longing for not work, that's a spiritual thing of taking a day off, a Sabbath of not doing any work. It's really a spiritual tool, I would call it, of being absolutely dead to yourself so you can accept something in.
Yeah.
I'm not doing things today to move myself forward. I'm just here to accept whatever is coming to me. And that's something that's hard for a lot of people to do because we're so ingrained with go, 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 go.
Hustle culture.
And then you get so caught up in that it just becomes your routine, when oftentimes routines are good. It's great to wake up early in the morning, have some time to just be quiet and still. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the morning, but, you know, go work out, go do the things that you need to do, get done, so then you can go have a free, open mind during your work day, and you can focus on what needs to be focused on, so you're not worried about what's coming after work.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good idea, like practicing Sabbath, because I joined a men's group here at Eastview Church.
Yeah.
And we've been actually studying the practice of solitude, like
silence and solitude. Yeah, that's awesome.
Like particularly our last session, we were studying how when Jesus went into the eremos, and it was kind of like the question was, why would he go into the eremos to be tempted by the devil? Like, wouldn't it seem like that would be a weak point for him? But it's almost like the flip side. Like the conclusion that we came to is that Jesus went into the eremos, he went into solitude because that's where he drew strength from God. And like with being alone with God like that, it made him even more powerful because if like he was closer in a way, if that makes sense. That's what we came to.
Jesus would often go and seclude himself in the mountains. Oftentimes it'd be overnight, and that was a common thing for him to do. You can see it multiple times throughout the New Testament whenever he would go and do those things. That's something I want to try this year, actually, is go and pray for a night outside somewhere. I don't know what it'll be like, so I just want to try it. I've never done it before. It's been something that's like was put on my heart like 2 weeks ago. Actually, I was doing just a devotional time by myself, and I read a scripture where Jesus went to the mountain to pray, and he prayed all night. And I'm just gonna try that.
You gonna go completely alone?
Yeah.
I thought about doing that too. We were talking about like with the solitude practices, you can do like maybe like a couple minutes a day. There's like different ways to practice each thing. So like you could do like a couple minutes a day, or there's like the extreme where like they're talking about this program where like you can go out and like be in the wilderness and like, but like through a program, so it's not like completely. I mean, you could do it completely on your own if you wanted to, but like I don't know, it's almost intimidating for me, like going out there completely alone, because it's like you have to face those things. And like in the study, it's like they call solitude the place of encounter, because it's like you're gonna encounter God, you're gonna encounter the devil, and you're gonna encounter yourself.
Right.
And so I think like it's just so funny how God works, man, because like I feel like everything that I'm kind of studying and doing ties in together. Like one of the practices for my acting class is we go onto the quad and people watch. And just kind of
fun.
It's fun. Yeah, but it's like not creepy because it's for class, you know.
Sure.
But
someone check on that professor.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude. I actually like him. His name's Greg.
Cool.
But it's interesting. Like whenever you're like intentional about that, like one thing that I noticed, like just picking up on habits and people and like the things that we do to subconsciously to throughout our day, and whether it be to comfort ourselves or just that's what we're used to. Like one thing that I noticed from doing that is like people always have something in their hand. Like very rarely do you see people walking around just with their arms swinging at their side with nothing in their hand. Like rarely, like never. Like next time you go out, there'll be like very few people who have something in their hand. So like, I guess like putting myself in that mindset of looking at society and not just trying to go downstream with it, but like, what am I seeing? What am I actually looking at? And so it's like helped me grow in my faith too. Cause I mean, at college, it's difficult sometimes because I feel like isolated sometimes in my faith at college, you know,
Yeah.
and that's just how it is. But I feel strong in it as well. You know, I feel like these past 2-3 years, I've really grown in my faith, and I feel like I don't know how, like, I could go without it now, you know, because I feel like God, I see him working like literally everything, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he does. That's the piece where once you start to dig in and read the Bible and unlock some of the Bible calls them secrets, a lot of times of what's in there, you start to realize and you start to see some of God's plan through a little tiny crack in the wall.
Yeah, like I started doing this Bible, it's called the Bible Recap.
Oh yeah.
It's like have you heard of it?
Through the year
Cobble.
with Tara Lee
Yeah.
Cobble.
Yeah, you know it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's great. I've been enjoying it so far, but
I'm actually on day 236 right now from year 5.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so you're doing it as well? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think today is I'm doing it with my dad and my brother and my grandpa, and today is the first day of Numbers.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're in some Old Testament stuff.
Yeah, Old Testament. I gotta say, like Leviticus and some of that stuff, it was like difficult to get through. Not necessarily because of like I found the subject matter difficult, but just like it's just a long read to me. But I think
it can feel repetitive too.
Yeah.
As you're going through it, but realizing that every single time that you're going through it, God has something to say is a good way to go about it. Just like Tara Lee says, you know, here's my God shot of the whole thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you're a new believer, it's great to look at that and to then read through the whole Bible in a year. That's the point.
Definitely, because I've never read the entire Bible before. So it's like now that I'm like, you know, I've been a Christian for however long, and I've never read the entire Bible. It's kind of like oh my gosh, like what, you know, like
how did I get to this point?
Like, I got to do that. So I'm happy I'm doing it, and the explanations from Tara Lee are really helpful to me. Like whenever like they're talking about some Old Testament stuff that I just like I don't quite understand, and like I can't like, you know, there's parts in the Old Testament where it's like stuff that would be taboo today, and then she'll kind of give an explanation. So I just find that helpful. But the things that God has revealed to me, like just through reading the script, it feels like, I mean, it's like the scripture says, like the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God, and the understanding the Holy One is knowledge or understanding. So it's just funny how that ties in.
What's interesting is that a lot of times people like talking about the manual, for example, from earlier. The Bible is a manual in a way, and it's also a story and a guidebook and all of these wonderful, beautiful things that God gave us. Excuse me. And at the same time, without reading it in its entirety, God will instill in us something that makes us feel him and makes us long for him without knowing all of this. Knowing son, daughter, this can come later. What matters right now is your heart and your eternity. The rules, regulations, a lot of them that I've said, hey, these don't matter. What matters is my love for you and your love for me. But come back to this. And it's great that you're doing that now.
Yeah.
Like you don't, a lot of people are like, you have to read the whole Bible before you become a Christian. And that's not true.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's not true. It's just it's one of those things that I could just talk about over and over and over all day, because I feel like the more like your relationship grows with Christ, like the more you want to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like whenever, especially I encounter this a lot at the college and like with people around there who just are totally just will not consider it that there's a God. And it's been difficult for me to like navigate those conversations previously, but I feel like I'm in a spot now. And I feel like this is because I've been spending time in the Word and because I've been praying about it, and I pray for wisdom, and I've asked him, and you know, I'm not expecting them, but he's given me those things, and I'm able to navigate situations and talk to people who disagree with me. Just fine. I can be direct, convey what I say. Like it's so funny, like exploring communication. There's so many different methods and things you could do, like to talk to someone, you're debating with someone, like echoing or all those different things. And I love the verbal spar. Like, it's kind of why I want to get some people on here who disagree with me, who don't think like I do, because I think that's also a downfall that we have today is people do not, they want to close off. If you don't agree with me, I don't want to hear from you.
Yes.
And I do not understand that, because like, if you disagree with me, I want to get inside your head. I want to know, why do you think that? What makes you think like that? Because maybe there's something I'm not seeing. Maybe there's something you're not seeing that I could tell you.
And being open to whichever way that might go. Not a lot of times it's like my way or the highway. And it's like, no, I want to hear. I want to actually listen to what you're saying and just taking that in. How do you think that your college classes and things that you're working on now at church, like where are you taking those whenever you're talking to just a normal person who you meet up with at college? Like, are you just queuing it up from a place of, hey, I want to be your friend? Like, what's your take? Because you're meeting brand new people. You just moved to this place, so.
That's a good question. Yeah, I think, like, and this boils down to, like, I think as Christians, we're called to love first, that's what we're supposed to do. So that's why I try. That's the kind of attitude I have at school. That's the kind of, like, aura I try to give off, is like, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to tell what I think. Like one of the things that I've encountered in class is, a lot of professors are very, very nice, are very, like, one way politically or whatever have you, very strongly opinionated, and that's fine. And the way I see it is, like, if you're going to bring politics into the classroom, that's fine, but everyone should be able to talk about what they think, and we should be able to converse with each other in a way that's not just, you're wrong. Like I've said things in class before, like, I've literally just been asking questions, and students will get upset. I'm like, why are you upset? I'm just asking a question, but it's difficult especially whenever, like, when you're in the smaller portion of the people that think that way in an environment.
Yeah.
Like, how do I tell you I think you're wrong, tell you what I think without sounding like a jerk? But it's like I was saying, I just pray about it. I mean,
yeah, and we're called to be open-minded. It's in the Bible. Open-mindedness is something that Christians should be. And whenever people present new ideas, you should hear them out. And like you said, do it in love.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, like, if I feel like in college, I encounter a lot of things that I disagree with, but I try to put those aside and I try to look at the person, because with any person, I look at them for who they are, what are their characteristics, what are their morals, what are their values. That's how I judge a person. Right. And I encounter a lot of people who, like, one of my professors, like the Greg I was telling you about, him and I are on the opposite swivel of most things that are, like, a sensitive topic.
Mm-hmm.
But I respect the hell out of him, because he's such good at breaking down films. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and he keeps the classroom neutral. And he might say what he think, but he allows other people to say what they think as well, which is fine. But one kind of switching gears here, something else I wanted to ask you about, but it ties in too, is like how you got started on the path of production. I know Western Oaks and JTB and all that. So is that kind of where you spurred, like, the inspiration to pursue your career now from? Is from there, or like?
Yeah. I was just a young person at the church, and the opportunity came up to run sound for the worship service. So I ran sound. I didn't know what that meant, but I was up there and making things get louder or quieter, depending on who was playing the instrument, right? And that just grew inside of me, and it developed, and I started to learn more and more about the different aspects of live production. So audio, video, lighting, and the different pieces that come with that. Our church had a seasonal program called Journey to Bethlehem that happened in the, like, Christmas time, where we basically turned the entire church building into a theatrical walkthrough, and you traveled along with a wise man from I don't even know where we started, like Caesar's Palace or Herod's Palace. Caesar's Palace. Yeah, we started in Vegas, and then no, I'm just kidding. We started in Herod's Palace, and then went out from there all the way to eventually be in Jerusalem,
That was so
or in
cool.
Bethlehem.
It was like live animals, like walking the pathways. They had fires and like going through the garage and all the different. And it was so fun too, because like I remember everyone that was at the church that would get involved. They were like, it was so like everyone just embraced it full fledged. You know, like all the characters really took on the character. They never broke character. Very rarely did they break character. Like, you know, like a little kid would come in and they'd be like talking to him like in the character.
Yeah,
they interact completely in character.
We did a lot of things with like creating these environments that made it feel like, you know, an angel was speaking to you. Mm-hmm. So like some projection stuff on some scrim or like sheets that we found in the back, you know, using with what little things we had, some fans that blew air at a specific time. So it felt like you're in a storm.
Yeah.
Just fun little things that you kind of like, oh wow, you can do a lot with a little.
Yeah. That coffee is like really like, whew, by the way, it's pretty strong.
It's good. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, I continued to develop those skills. I ended up with a production internship at a church in Chicago called Parkview Christian Church, and I was there for quite some time. I spent a year as an intern, and they added on a new campus, so I became the technical director at that campus, doing the same stuff at a different, higher level. From there, the video director at their broadcast campus, which this church was one of those churches where they had a main campus and they had a bunch of little satellite campuses that they shot the message out to.
Yeah.
So at that main broadcast campus, they needed someone to direct and run the video department. So I ran the video department there in the live aspect, and I did that for quite some time. And I got to a point where it was like a lot of weekends, a lot of overly extensive hours, and I'm like, I think I need a break from this. Mm-hmm. So from there, I worked for a lighting design company called JRLD.
Oh, really?
It's now called JRLX. They did shows for different bands that toured around America and also Canada. We would set up shows in the shop and do something called tour prep, which basically is a lot of color coding and writing out documents that specified where specific lighting fixtures go, things like that. Bands would come in and they would practice there as they're going out for tour, kind of a rehearsal space, so to say, for them as their very first stop before they go out on tour, as well as have programmers come in and program the entire show. A notable band is Dropkick Murphys. They toured through there.
Oh, that's cool.
So got to see the whole rig set up, and then as they packed it up and went out on the road.
Are you still doing like the basketball games or things like that?
Yeah, so kind of as a side thing, I'm doing some live TV broadcast, and the latest thing I've done with that was the Friday Night Rivals, and that is a local Central Illinois with Sinclair Broadcasting, and they do a Friday night stream and broadcast of football games for the high schools in the area. And they bring in an entire production truck. And the first year I did it, I was a technical director for it. And the last year that I did it, I ran replay, which was a totally new, never had done it before.
Huh.
Put me out of my comfort zone for sure. I had to learn something totally new.
That's kind of how I've seen it work in the production world, as far as like you kind of just start in one area. Because like when people ask me like, what are you studying? Like, I'm not exclusively studying film. I took a sound class, lighting. It's like if you get your foot in the door of production, it's like there's so many different things you could do, so many different job opportunities. Like the career field for production is like pretty vast.
Absolutely. And everything you see on TV, everything you see online, even if there's someone on camera, so long as they're not doing it themselves, there's a team behind it where they had to put together all of these different parts. If there's multiple cameras, there's multiple camera people behind each camera. I did an MMA event, and
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's
actually.
crazy.
Yeah, I ran replay for it. Not only was the production company there to film it, there was also a production company there to run lights, to run audio, everything that was inside of the stadium. There was a separate team for, and we connected via network.
That's
And
cool.
we could talk to each other and do all the things that we needed to do. But it was two separate production teams working together. And there's instances where, it's the Masters and there's 48 countries represented, and there's a truck for each one of those things. You don't understand how big this can get. And I recently kind of have delved into the tracking on the field for football and the different types of lines and all of this, all of the like where the down's at.
Okay.
That line that goes across the field. Someone has to do that.
Like manually put that in.
It's all generated now,
Sure.
but someone has to manage
To run it.
the pieces of it. Right.
Wow.
Scoreboards, all of
So
those things
do you
are.
ever like do editing and stuff yourself, or is it mainly just like producer stuff?
We do edit videos. So to wrap up, like where I'm at now, I was for the lighting design company, and I moved back to Springfield and started working at Westside Christian Church, and I've been there ever since. And it's just like a dream role. I'm right where God wants me to be at this moment in time. I'm open to anything else that He might call me to, but there we do a lot of in-house editing. We film videos that are sent out to the online stream.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own YouTube channel just for like training purposes. So those videos, I have a team underneath me, so we're able to work together to make those videos and edit them down, do things
sweet.
like that. So there is some editing involved. It's less of a storytelling type of video. Maybe it's like a lyric video that goes behind the band as they're singing a song. I like to put those types of things together.
Gotcha.
So if there's a project like that, I'll be like, I'll do it.
Gotcha. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize how much time that stuff takes too. Like I shot a music video last weekend for one of the other students.
Nice.
And it's fun, but it's like it's tricky. Like planning, planning and like is probably the trickiest part for me. Like how many shots do I need to get to make this work? What do I want to cut to? How do I want? Because I mean, like it's pretty easy with the music video. Like it's not that many rules. Like,
Yeah.
pretty free flow with it. But one other question I wanted to ask you before I forget. So I know I've experienced this like working the camera, but do you ever have a hard time like hearing the message when you're working it on a Sunday because like you're so busy with doing things?
Absolutely. I've actually, our church right now is doing a very specific study, and I've had to make it a point to remove myself from my role as to listen to a message. And if I'm not able to do that, I just listen to it like from the podcast later on.
Yeah.
I find whenever I'm studying in that format, the best thing for me to do is take notes, so I can follow along a lot better if I'm taking notes with it, and that also helps me recall. I'm kind of a journaler, so anytime that I can write something down as I'm speaking or as I'm thinking or as I'm listening, that definitely helps me out.
Yeah, journaling, that's something I probably should get more into, like taking notes and stuff. I try to do it whenever I can, but I'm not that good at it, to be honest, taking notes.
Well, I think it just depends on how you learn.
Yeah.
For me, it's taking notes. It always has been since I was in school. So
Yeah.
I had 5-star notebooks filled front to back.
I think how I learned is probably like with someone, like them teaching me how to do something. That's like my best way, because like I can read the manual and figure it out, but like I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So like if I can't like one of the things that I'm experiencing in my Spanish class now is like it's different. Like I don't really like it, but like we'll have videos that we're supposed to watch before we come to class, and then we just teach. We just practice in the class, which I hate, because it's like if I like, oh man, because literally I didn't have to go to college to watch YouTube videos to figure out how to do something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
anyone in the world could get on YouTube and figure out how to do something. It's like I came to college to be taught. So that's kind of my argument towards it. But I mean, there's other counter arguments as far as like, well, the class is short. It's only like 50 minutes a day. So try to make the most of it, yada, yada, yada. But
Well, you still have the professor there. You're still able to ask the professor questions, and hopefully they're able to, give
Yeah.
you some feedback on those things.
Yeah.
Do what you can with what they give you, and use them when you need them.
Yeah, I do. And it's so funny too, because like, I may have said this before on a different episode, but like one of my professors was like, all right, who here was born in the 90s? Because only one, bro.
Really? That's crazy.
Only one in my whole class. So it's funny, like some of the students call me grandpa and stuff, and like I'm not even that old. I turned 25 this year.
Right.
But it's like, because I'm a transfer student, because I got my associates at Purdue.
Yep.
But because Purdue is another D1 school and not like a community college, like when I transferred, all the credits went weird. And so like they didn't count like a lot of my credit. I transferred with 92 credit hours and they accepted 16.
Oh.
So not good.
Yeah.
But I was able to switch. So instead of being on like the transfer student plan, I'm now on like just the regular student plan.
Okay.
Which bumped it from 7 classes down to 5 as far as like Common Core, which is honestly upsetting because I took all those classes already at Purdue. I don't want to take them again, but it's just like, man, like I don't know why I went to Purdue for 2 years just for them to not count, but at least they gave me another degree, and I got through the Army, so I guess can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be sad about the accolades that you have.
That's true.
You should be proud of what you've done.
That's true.
And thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you for your support, man. It's like, man, what was it? 2 weeks ago was like a year for me getting my discharge paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't officially get out until May 14th of last year. So it's coming up on a year of me being out. And, man, this past year has been such a roller coaster. Like, I bought a house, got out of the Army, started college again, kind of. Because, like, college when I was in the Army was all online, so it wasn't a totally different experience. But now I'm, like, in college, So, man, it's been a lot, but, like.
Does it feel like a new life?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of start from... Hey, here's some of the money the Army gave you. Now go.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's like I can see why so many people don't get out. They stay in because it's like it's really a risk. It's a gamble on yourself. You get because I mean, when I left Fort Riley, like I had already shipped some stuff of my stuff off, but like I lived in a barracks room, bro. Like I didn't have very many things.
Right.
So like when I left, like they gave me my discharge paperwork, and then I turned in my room key to my barracks room, and then it's like, all right, leave. So I had like all I had was in my car. So like I'm leaving Fort Riley with me in my car, and it's like, well, now what? I got to figure it all out, and it worked out fine. I had luckily made enough plans and had a ton of support, so that was huge. But it's like the guys who let's say they have a wife and a kid, they can't just get out and go stay at their mom's basement for 6 months till they find a place, because it's like they have a whole family now. So it's like the whole getting out of the Army, not only like I got out at the right time because, like I said, I'm single and I don't really have a ton of people depending on me, really. It was just I had to take care of myself and that's it. But like the guys who have a family or kids or whatever, it's like it's hard for them to get out. They may be super unhappy, Like I had one of my old bosses, he posted on his thing like, I need a friend, someone please check on me. And so I was like, hey, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, LOL. It was like, it's upsetting, man. It's like, I hate to see all the veterans and stuff go through all that stuff. And just part of it, though. It's like going into the Army. Like everyone who joins the Army knows like that they've seen veterans. They know how it is. So I feel like I almost had not an advantage, but I almost had more of a preparedness. Like I took time to reflect on all those things before I got out. Like, and making my decision to get out of the Army, it was like, here's my pros, here's my cons, and here's what I expect to face. So I've been able to overcome that with God, and my family and everyone. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that you can be a voice to tell other people about. So, it's not for nothing. You saw what you saw, and now you can speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And it's part of the reason why I like doing this too, because I've had mostly military people on so far, just because that's most people I know.
Absolutely.
Now, but it's cool. Like I've had people watch it, and I kind of want to show, like, part of it's like practicing my skills, and but I want to show too to people I know in the Army, like you can get out and be successful. Like you just gotta just do it, like just freaking do it. Like of course it's scary, like, and of course like the leaders that are in the Army, they'll tell you like, oh, you're gonna be homeless, they try to scare you to not getting out because retention is super low right now. And there's a stigma in the Army. Like once you voice that you're getting out, then you're immediately placed in a lower category. Like when I left Fort Riley, like it's pretty standard to get like a PCS award or a PCS award and PCS gift. PCS means permanent change station, and ETS means like end time in service. So like if you PCS, like if I go to Hawaii for 3 years, I PCS to Kansas, I ETS from Kansas. That's like the lingo, but
Okay.
like that plaque up there. I'll show a picture of it, but that's the one on the right. It has like the jungle and all that stuff.
Yep.
So that's like the gift that I got from leaving Hawaii and different things. And
yep.
then they gave me like a little award too, like a little ribbon, you know, 3 years of service. Yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get anything when I left Fort Riley. Nothing, which is fine. You know, I'm not gonna cry about it. But
because they knew you were getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Because once you tell them, and I kept it a secret for a while. Like I knew like probably a year or two. I don't know. Like I was teeter-tottering when I left Hawaii. I was teeter-tottering the fence.
Right.
And then like some stuff had happened in Fort Riley that I was just like done for. And I didn't tell them until like I started the transition class, because you have to go through a class before you can get out. And so I told them like, hey, I'm getting out. I'm starting the class, and they were like appalled, but whatever. And
you just got to continue on with how you're going, and you're going great.
You have any questions about like the military? I like talking about it, so like I don't know. I try to get people.
I was really interested whenever you were going through jungle school. I feel like anything that you should tell someone about jungle school, what would be the number one thing you would say?
Don't give up. I mean, literally, the course is designed to see who's gonna quit. You know, and I like it's really interesting because the 25th Infantry Division, who like is the division over the school, has set it up to where there's, I don't know, 120 slots per class. But the instructors of the course have pretty much have, through, you know, enough time, have decided that an effective class of jungle students will be like 50 or less. You can't teach 120 people proper technique, whatever. So what their solution is, day one, you test on like 13 different ropes. And so as soon as you get there, you have to day one you test, and it's like you have to do it perfectly. And it's like different knots, different harnesses you have to tie on yourself, whatever it may be, and you use all of them throughout the course. So it's like they spend that time that they would teach you how to do the knots, they put up on YouTube, so you're supposed to watch it before you go. And once you get there, you test, and if you fail, you retest the next morning, and if you fail again, you're out. And they dropped, I don't know, 50 students. No, probably more than that. Probably like 60 students day one because of that. And one of my soldiers that came with me was one of them. And but once you get through the ropes, it's pretty smooth sailing as far as like testing goes. Like you'll test on other things like land nav, one rope bridge, and if you drop out of those, if you fail those, then you get kicked out of the class. But really, what it comes down to, once you pass the initial testing, you go in on a Monday, you test Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and once you make it past the Wednesday, you only have one more test on that Saturday, but then the next 2 weeks is just all you just gotta survive. Right. If you heat cat or pass out, then you get kicked out, or if you like or any type of like weak link, pretty much you get kicked out. So as long as you make it through those testing, just do not give up. And there's gonna be times where it's like, you know, because you do everything with your squad, so it's like the first week is kind of classes and kind of going, but it's everything's outside. You're outside the entire time. You may sleep in like a little bunk or whatever, but there's classes, and then the second portion of the school is all practical, all missions, all in the jungle. You're in the jungle the whole time, everything like that. But I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks when I was there.
Dang, is that like 10% of your body weight?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
I came out looking really, really malnourished. Like
I bet.
Like my graduation day, my people from my unit were like, "Oh my gosh, what happened to you?"
Wow.
Yeah, because I mean,
does it survive on the land, or are they giving you packs?
Yeah, it's both.
Okay.
So you eat MREs the entire time that you can, like in the bag, and then like there'll be like, there was a time it was like we came back, we went out into the jungle for a couple days, and we came back to like the bays, which is just like a World War II style hut with bunks in it.
Okay.
And there was like a little like one building that had like a little shower, couple shower heads in it. So they were like, all right, go. You know, we made it back from the jungle for the first couple of days, and I mean, we've been in the river and it's been pouring rain. We've been sleeping outside, shooting, and all those things. No sleep really. And then they're like, all right, go bed down, have a good night, enjoy it. Boom, like 10, and it was like 9 p.m. So we all, pass out. Like 10 p.m. they start throwing sim arty around the barracks, and they're like,
Whoa.
they run in there. They're like, screaming.
Yeah.
So we all were like, what? We're running up and everyone's running, putting their boots on, and we're all running outside, and we're all standing there in a uniform, rucksacks all left, all of our gear still inside.
Oh no.
Marched us straight out to the middle of the freaking jungle, and they're like, see ya. Left us there for 2 days.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So no food. You didn't have anything. Just whatever you were.
I had my canteens.
Whatever you managed to put on.
Yeah, I put on my flick, which is it's just like kind of like a little vest, but I had my canteens on it, thankfully. So I had some water, so I like spread it around, and they were like day 2 of survival, and we were just out there, and they told us like, don't worry about like being mission discreet right now. Like, there's no enemy presence in the area. Like, your only objective for this portion is to survive. And so you got guys out there eating fern. I was eating fern. Like,
really?
Yeah, you can eat fern. Like, there's a whole edible test that they taught us. Like, you like of like stuff you can eat. Like, put it to your lips, and then wait a couple hours and see if it breaks out, and then put it on your tongue, wait a couple hours, and then maybe like swish it around in your mouth. And if you ever like break out or have a reaction, then you can't eat it. But if you don't, then you just put it down and see how it goes. But they teach you all kinds of survival stuff, all kinds of how to set
fern
traps.
soup.
Yeah, ferns, man.
Yeah,
ferns.
Just crunch it up and make a little mash. Oh yeah, all right.
I mean,
nutritious.
There'll be guys. Some guys had their canteen cup, which is like a little metal thing.
Yeah.
Put some pine needles in there and put it on the fire. Put some pine tea.
Yeah.
But it was funny because day 2 they were like, all right, pick 4 soldiers to go on a reconnaissance and resupply mission. We were like, oh yeah, we're about to get some food. And so we sent like the best guys or whatever, really the guys who wanted to go because everyone else is dead tired.
Yeah.
And they come back with this crate like a couple hours later. And we're like, oh, we open it up. There's like 3 apples and a Ziploc bag of rice for like the whole squad, bro. We're like, what? So like,
let's divvy this up. Get your knife out.
Yep, that's exactly what we did, bro. Like, yep. Like, pass around the apples. Everyone like cuts off a little piece and just like
tiny.
Just
enough. Just enough to hold you on.
Yeah. But we did cool stuff. Flew around in helicopters. Like, helicopter would come fly in, drop down like they call the JP, jungle penetrator. It's basically an anchor. And you drop it down and you sit on it and they'll bring you up. And then.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that you got to do all those things out in the wilderness. And
yeah, man.
You got to test your skills.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Fun. Test your merit. I mean, air assault school, I went to that too. That's like it's another one where you like rappel out of helicopters. Like, you've seen Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
When they come in and like rappel in, that's air assault pretty much. So like, learn how to do that, how to sling all stuff to helicopters. But it's interesting because like I tell Muja this all the time, but it's like, man, I have so much information in my head about the Army, like different regulations and forms and all these different things. And it's like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to use that again.
Right. You just have to do like a brain dump on all of it. I'm sure there's some useful stuff, but there's some things that are like, I've heard, my brother-in-law's in the Air Force, so I've heard some of his like, saying every single abbreviation known to man. Yes. I'm like, I don't know what half of the things you just said. I mean, when you were explaining what the abbreviations meant, I'm like, thank you, because I have no clue what any of them mean.
I've learned, bro. I have learned because like we speak in letters.
Yeah.
And I've learned to kind of I can't just say things because people. It's weird though. It's like ingrained. It gets ingrained in your vocabulary. Like, you don't. And it's like it's the same thing with Spanish. Like, or anytime you learn another language, eventually you get to the point where you're not interpreting it. You just understand what it means. And so that's how like the military lingo is. Like, I don't interpret the abbreviations. I just know what it means. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So in your acting class right now, what are you doing?
We do. He switches it up. Like, we were doing the people watching last class. But most of the time they'll give us like a short script, like a couple different things. And it's really simple. Like, we started like, hi, like nice weather today. Yeah. Much nicer out than yesterday. And like, but the way he teaches it is good because it's like the lines are so barren, but he'll be like, now you're pissed off when you're reading this. Like, this, you can't believe what they just did. So like, you kind of injecting that sense of character into the lines is like what we're really focusing on.
Yeah. The emotion side of it rather than the memorizing lines.
Subtext, like what's really being communicated here? Are you really because we want to try to avoid being like on the nose. Like, I'm not gonna say exactly what I mean, which is where it's different from the Army. But you want to like, and he pulled up a scene of like two people flirting. It was like George Clooney and someone else, and it's like, notice in the whole scene they do not say, "You're a really attractive woman. I'm skeptical of you." You know, it's like, it's like there's subtext. That meaning is conveyed through the subtext.
Have you seen the movie The Invention of Lying?
No, I haven't.
You should watch it because it is they can't lie, and it has it has the whole story arc of how the invention of lying came about.
Really?
It's obviously fiction, but
yeah, that's funny,
it's really good.
Do you have any good films that you're onto right now?
Oh man, my wife and I are watching through John Wick.
Really?
I love John Wick.
We saw the fourth one in theaters, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We went together.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah. John Wick is
it's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so we're rewatching John Wick right now. I mean, I like the hits. I'll go back. I'll watch anything for real. If it's a movie and it's on the screen, I'll turn it on and I'll watch through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm in a screenwriting class right now. And it's funny because my same professor for acting, I have him for screenwriting. And so it's really, and I like him, which is great because he'll like say things in one class and then like it'll get brought up in the other because they go hand in hand. And it's like, man, it's just, everything's coming together. But like we do these weekly turn-ins of a script and he'll be like, okay, write a scene with this, write a scene with this, write a scene with this. It's like last week was write a scene with no dialogue. And this week's like write a scene with only dialogue. So it's like it's pretty cool, you know. Like for the scene with no dialogue, you gotta get creative. And I did it to where it was, boom, you open up scenes on a beach, and then boom, cuts to like real tight shots of like the waves, rowing, boat, brow, and then the guy looking back, and then boom, he's running away from another ship, so he's paddling away. He's got like a secret thing on him and blah blah blah. But you can do like, it's funny how when you're being intentional about it, like I could went through a whole story with not one word being spoken, you know. And then the same thing with using dialogue. You can go through whole stories with very little action.
Are you gonna film any of these?
Yeah, I want to.
That would be awesome.
I want to. So like,
it'd be really cool to see like some just, you know, hey, these are my college projects.
Yeah.
And now I've spent the time to actually film them out.
Yeah. Cause we're doing like 3 big projects. So like these are just weekly turn-ins where we're kind of practicing, but the 3 bigger projects are going to be like longer, like short, legit full short films, at least a script for it. And I have like, the setup now to where like I want to produce it and film it. And it's interesting though, cuz like I feel like the best stories are the ones that you don't have to create. It's almost like a retelling.
Absolutely, yeah. Telling a story that you've already experienced kind of allows you to tell it easier, especially if you know, like, no, it should look like this. I have a very clear direction, the director. I have a very clear direction of where this needs to go, and here's all the pieces to make it happen. And like you said, that helps with just writing it all out. Here's the props I need.
Right.
Here's the location. Here is the style, exactly where I want the camera to be facing. You start to get, is it at daytime? Is it at nighttime? I can see it in my head. Now let's just make it
interior, exterior. Yeah. And like how to write it too, like you can write it in a way to where you don't even mention the camera at all. So like I'll write it and be like the piercing of oars into the ocean. White knuckles gripping on the oars.
You just know.
So like you can just see.
Yeah.
You don't have to say close up on knuckles gripping the oars. You just say white knuckles gripping oars. That's it. So it's like, you know, and some of it too, like, even though like I would be writing and directing them, like if I get more into script writing, I think it's cool and there's different techniques, but some script writers will just they'll just tell what's going on and they'll leave like the shots completely up to the director's discretion, which is cool too. But the biggest challenge I think because like writing a story is the easy part. Filming it and production is the hard part, especially like that's the biggest challenge for me now because I have to write and shoot a story that can be easily accessible to me. I can't shoot a movie about pirates because I'm not by the ocean. You know, I can't shoot a movie about ancient Egypt because I'm not by a desert and I don't have all the money to supply all those things. So it's like, it'd have to be something I could shoot in today's time frame relatively with the surrounding areas, like, you know, whether it be my grandparents' property or like
and it
somewhere
will
on
look like the
campus.
Midwest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unless I take a trip or like, but that's whole. I gotta.
That's a different level.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
Whenever I was at Parkview, we did fairly large video projects. The person that oversees that, his name's Kevin West, and he has a great eye for basically everything. He had a team underneath him. I think one of the videographers was Kenneth Fryer, and then another guy named Max Shaw. And some of the stuff they did was just incredible. They did a lot of like rip-offs of Star Wars.
Oh, really?
And, you know, how do you film Star Wars in the Midwest? And they would go out and they would find asphalt companies that had mounds of dirt that looked like sand. And so they were able to film all of the like desert scenes from Star Wars, and they just ripped it
Really?
off. Like, and it looks so good. And then forest scenes are easy because there's forests all over the place in Illinois. So they just went and filmed there.
Yeah.
But just seeing how they were able to take some of those, like, hey, yeah, I am far away from these things, but this looks like it.
Mhm.
We can add a second sun in post to make it look like Star Wars,
Yeah.
you know?
That's really cool. Just being creative.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at, I don't know. After Effects is so challenging though. Like I Premiere Pro, I pretty much got down, but like After Effects, I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
We just gotta get the manual, huh?
Dig in.
Yeah.
Some of those softwares, it's best, I think, to watch the YouTubes.
Mhm.
Get it on there.
That's how I
and
learned Premiere.
just dig down on the YouTube and figure out specifically, hey, I want to do this. How do I do it? And that might unlock another thing later on too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know how to do keyframe, so
Mhm.
here's how you do it in After Effects.
Mhm.
I know how to do it in Adobe Premiere. I can do it in After Effects now too.
Yeah. Yeah. YouTube, like another thing that I think probably the biggest help or vault for me, so like the trampoline vault to get going, has been just networking.
Yeah.
Like just talking to people. Like that's one thing that I've learned from college. Like I feel like the most I've learned from college, like I have this guy in my class named Rod. He was on one of my episodes. He's an audio student.
Yep.
And we'll get together and like the things that spark from college has been what's been most beneficial to me versus like the actual material itself. Like the things that I've just picked up throughout being there and just from working with other people, picking the brain and the ideas of the other students, and just seeing how they are has been the most beneficial thing to me, more than the actual content of the class.
Yeah, and obviously they might know something that you don't know. So hey, how can we collaborate and work on this together?
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful way to see how things work like that.
And it's interesting to see them too, because like most of the students, like I was saying, have not, like they were fresh out of high school, and so like they haven't really experienced like other things, or like being around other people or people who think different, or being in a different environment, being away from their parents. And so it's kind of like it's not funny, but it's like it's just like, you know, I feel like a real old head now. I look like, yep, I remember that. Like I remember
Back in my day,
I remember like fear of missing out. Like I rarely go out anymore. You know, like we go out drinking, I should say. Like I will, like after we win a big game as a coach, staff, or whatever. But I'm not like, I don't know. I'm just past that. You know, it's just part of growing up, I guess. But,
the circle of life, man.
because I'll be tired in the morning, man. You know, it's like Pub Wednesday is a big thing here. Like I don't know if you've heard of Pub 2 in Blooming in Uptown Normal. It's like everyone goes there on a Wednesday. I've been once all year because
Okay.
Man, I got class Thursday, man. Like I gotta get up and do stuff. But
I have responsibilities now.
yeah. My question would be like, with the church and everything, whenever you encounter something that's like difficult or challenging, especially with other people, how do you go about that? Like, do you like, I know it's pray about it and different things, but like, I know it's like all you can do, but like, I guess better way to phrase this would be, if you encounter someone who like they just don't believe, like how do you even open up that conversation with them? How do you even start telling them like what you believe? Because like I have people who like are so convinced, like trust the science, but like to me, like how could you say physics rules everything in the galaxy except what caused the galaxy, the Big Bang? Like physics don't apply. Laws of physics don't apply to the Big Bang. How can matter just be created? You know, it goes against the laws of physics. And so, like, if you look at, like, I heard a really good argument for this on JRE. A scientist came on who actually was a non-believer, and then through studying the cosmos became a believer because he just came to the conclusion that there's no way this is just all an occurrence. There's no way this is just all coincidence. There's no way this wasn't designed. So it sometimes feels like whenever you encounter someone who has God has not revealed himself to them, it's like, man, I don't even know what to do. Like, do you have any recommendations or suggestions for how to, like, talk to someone about God who hasn't seen that yet?
What I try to do with my own life is whenever I talk to someone, I want to be open-handed and I want to be as truthful as possible to them. And that in itself oftentimes is a shock, that I'm going to be open and I'm going to tell them what I think and hopefully share what I learn that's applicable to their situation. And one of the biggest things that's been helpful to me in this, I would say even the last 2 months, is just filtering what I say through the love of Jesus. And that's not going to make sense to them, but it will make sense to you. I may not know how the world was created, and if someone does know exactly how it was created, let me know. Like, I don't know how God did it, but I do believe that God did it in some way. And it may have been through a Big Bang, and it may have been through some other form, and I have to go with what I know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about the logistics of how God chose to do it. So I can't necessarily argue to those points. We can look at the science, and dig down that way. But I'm just going to continue to live my life in a way that hopefully when someone sees it, they're like, I want a piece of whatever they have because my life feels wrecked right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's great. And they're doing their thing on their own and they're doing what they're doing. But dig down inside. Is there something that's missing?
Yeah.
There probably is.
Well, it always is.
And it'll be exposed through time.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Kind of just like being like showing the love of Jesus and letting them see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to. There's a lot of people that are forceful and they're on the street corner. That's a very common, like, oh, this is a law thing. They're trying to shove their rules down my throat. And I don't want to, be a part of that. And I don't think that Jesus Christ, when he was on earth, necessarily was shoving things down anybody's throats in that way of his message. He was open to sharing it to whoever was willing to receive it. And I hope to model that.
Do the Jews believe in Jesus?
Mostly not. There's a lot of scripture that's redacted from their I'm blanking on what the
Torah
that are redacted on specifics about the Messiah.
So that's like interesting because Jesus says the only way to be saved is through me. So that's kind of like a head scratcher because like if the Jew, I don't know. I mean, it's not really my business, but like the Jews are God's chosen people. But then Jesus says the only way to be saved is through me, and then they don't believe in Jesus. Like, it's not really. I guess it's just interesting to point that out. I think like it's just like I don't know.
Well, the Jewish people don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. And in the Bible, it clearly states that that Jesus was the Messiah because of these things, and those are called prophecies. And you can see that they are from the Old Testament all the way through the New Testament. These prophecies have come true, and through reading the Bible in its entirety, you will see things come true that were prophesied years and years ago. And it can be as small as someone was buried there and we're going to destroy the land that they were buried on. You'll see some of that in Josiah, and it comes true. And then it'll continue throughout, and a baby will be born in Bethlehem, and his name will be Jesus, and he'll be the Messiah, and he's going to save you from your sins.
Yeah. Because like reading the Old Testament, like you're right, like there are prophecies literally all, like everywhere, like even with Jacob and Abraham and like I Tara Lee told me the term scapegoat is from the Jewish culture whenever they would like would pin their sins on or whatever it was on a goat and then lead him out into the wilderness and then just let him go free.
Let him go.
That's like that's literally the scapegoat, and so that's how that term got started. So it's just so funny to see like the workings like throughout God he puts throughout history, you know, and like even like the land of Canaan, that's where Israel is today. You know, it's just so crazy to me. Like God's promises literally always come true.
I recently shared a video with your brother Taylor, and I think it's called Expedition Bible, and it's on YouTube, and anyone can watch it. And it's an archaeologist. So here's more science that is like, here's physically the land that they were in. And the last one I watched was, where was the Garden of Eden?
Ooh.
And they get down to the bottom of it, which is very interesting to like actually see, because there's 3 rivers. I'm not going to be able to recite the exact rivers of where it was. One of them was the Euphrates, and they all come together in a head. And
Like right in here.
Yeah, so we have the map right here. Yeah, so it would be right here.
Right in there.
Yeah, right there. But
that's cool.
Expedition Bible, look up where was the Garden of Eden, and there was a dried up river that made up the 3rd river that they found, traveled from the mountains of Jordan, the Caspian Mountains. Those rocks that were once large boulders traveled down this river, and as it traveled, broke up into smaller pebbles.
Wow.
And at the where the rivers meet, they found the exact same rock that was in the mountains that had traveled 200 miles, I believe, through a desert.
Yeah.
But the river's no longer there because weather changes, and there's weather's constantly changing. So there's no longer a river there, but that you can drive down the bed physically. The bed of the river is still there, covered in rock.
That's like that kind of leads into like God and time, because like God is outside of time. So like, what is a day? What is a day? Like a day to the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day to the Lord. So it's like, did I say that right?
Yeah.
1,000 years to the Lord is a day, and a day is 1,000 years.
Right.
But so like, what is, if God created the world in 7 days? Like, what is a day? Because and that's kind of things that I know I am never gonna find the answer to, or at least not here. But I like to talk about. It's fun. It's fun to talk about. Like whenever they say like they found the remnants of Noah's Ark. What do you think about that? You think that's true? Like they actually found it, or like they showed pictures, but it's like you can't really tell. I don't know.
That'd be crazy. I haven't seen specifically what you're talking about, but if wood petrifies and there is enough of it, for sure, I guess you could find a ship that old.
Can you Google where they think they found it? They found it on some. I think they found it on some mountain.
On a mountain.
On a mountain.
Oh, that makes sense because it was the first dry land, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was in Turkey.
Yeah.
Because then I read or not read. I heard Joe Rogan talking about Noah's Ark one time, and oh man, like you know how like up here like in North America, there's like all this land that's like kind of, it looks like super broken up, and like what the guy he had on was saying that Noah's Ark could have been like, I don't know, part of the contributor could have been like a comet or something hitting like a glacier up here and flooding this whole region, and like along with the rains. I don't know, and that's something we'll never know again. But it's like, it's cool because like if you look at this whole region, it almost looks like a flood went through here. But
oh yeah,
I don't know.
Definitely, and there's a lot that can be figured out about how the land looks from space, and now that we're able to do that with photographs from space, even looking on Google Maps, hey, look, the Sangamon River used to be like double the size that it was. Or look at the Illinois River Valley specifically. The Illinois River Valley is huge. How do you think it got to that? If you've ever driven through the Illinois River Valley, you go down a ridge and then you're in flat land for like 10 miles. But the Illinois River is only mostly like 300 feet across.
So that was probably once completely filled.
I would assume so because of how large it was.
Wow.
I look at the Grand Canyon.
Isn't that nuts thing about North America before like it was settled? Like North
Yeah.
America was a wild place, man.
I always think about, it's always when I'm at the gas station for some reason, I'm like, I wonder like what this looked like if I were to just be able to have a little dial and turn back 200 years. Like there would just be trees here
Trees,
everywhere.
wolves.
Go look at your grandparents' estate and you can see exactly how it looked.
Yeah.
You know, this is where there's not farmland, it was just trees. Trees and weeds.
So crazy, man. Isn't that crazy? Because like now you can look over a cornfield
Yeah,
in Illinois
see everything.
and see as far as your eyes can literally
Yeah,
take
this
you.
was all forest.
The entire thing.
It's very fertile, so trees like to grow in it.
It's so crazy to me, man. It's like and the predators too: wolves, bears, mountain lions, bison.
There was a field that a farmer was using, and it became floodplain because they rerouted a small creek in Springfield. And my friends and I used to go off-roading there in vehicles,
Really?
or four-wheelers and
That's
things
cool.
like that. And the farmer no longer plowed the field. They no longer care for the land there because it became part of floodplain. So
Wow.
his crops kept getting washed out. So they just left it alone. It's just now hunting ground. But over the last 10 years, there's now trees that are, 40 feet high, like
In 10 years.
tall trees in 10 years.
Wow.
And just how quickly the land reclaimed itself is pretty incredible. And it's like, in 2010, I was like mudding in this lot that was empty. There were some weeds that were as tall as my truck, but at the same time, you could just drive over them, because you're flying.
That's insane.
And now there's trees there, so if you tried to do it, you would get stuck.
And that's just in 10 years. So that goes to show like people trying to discover things about like the Illinois tribe. Like how could it's so long ago, it's like everything's been swallowed, but I would like to learn more about that, like the Native Americans.
Absolutely, yeah, that's
Because
cool.
I had a couple Native American buddies in the army, and I had a soldier. It was so funny, dude. It's like one of my Native American friends. He grew up like on the reservation. When I was in AIT in Georgia, we ate Thanksgiving together. So it was cool. It was funny. It was cool. I joked with him about it.
The
But
Pilgrims and the Indians meet again.
yeah, it was funny. And
The Native American way of life, from how it's been explained, is very interesting. Just how they're so careful about the land, and the way they use products and make their own things. And you always hear they use every part of the animal. I read a book. It was called The Last American Man, and it was about a guy that he roughed it. He did the Appalachian Trail wearing only a loincloth, which is like 2,000 plus miles.
That's it?
Yeah, and he ran it. I think he has one of the like fastest times, but it's not recorded because he is kind of a hippie.
wow.
He also rode across the United States on a horse.
What?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting book. It's just a biography of a guy's life. It's pretty cool.
We have a colleague who did the Appalachian Trail last summer,
Really?
and
How long did it take them?
How long was he on there?
It was like 8 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
He went slow, to be honest.
Yeah.
Out of some, I mean, I'd probably go that fast too.
Taking his
like
time with
hey,
meeting people.
hey, if you get to take the time to do that, what a blessing.
Yeah.
I hope one day to be able to do that. That's really cool. Yeah, it's
Appalachian Trail specifically, or just any
I would do any long hike. I think it sounds fun.
yeah.
It sounds terrible, but at the same time, it's like, what an accomplishment.
Right.
Congratulations to your friend that did it in 8
Yeah.
months. That's really
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah. He's a cool dude. I definitely I need to do more camping and stuff. I need to get outside.
Do you want to
more.
come with me this summer?
Yeah.
I'll just let you know anytime I
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Yeah. Seriously, I will. That'd be fun.
You should do some solos.
I should.
Yeah.
But where do you even go camping? Is it-
Any state park.
okay.
State parks are good ones. Any forest, like forest, what are they called? There's a state forest close by you, Sand Ridge State Forest. That's kind of close to
Okay.
Peoria. There's a
Cool.
like a 10-mile loop there that you can just hike around. I will give you a warning. It's very sandy. It's called Sand Ridge.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure why there's sand there actually, but there's sand like on the beach
Really?
in the middle of
Just
this
in the
forest.
ground?
It's really bizarre.
Huh.
Yeah. So hiking it is like hiking uphill in the sand.
So it's like
for 10
thick sand,
miles.
though. It's like,
Oh yeah.
wow.
If there weren't trees there, it'd probably be dunes.
Wow.
You know,
I gotta check that place out.
it's interesting, and there's places to hike along.
What's it called again?
Sand Ridge.
Okay.
I think it's Sand Ridge State Forest.
So when you go camping, do you go camping? Like what's your like? Because
I'll do any level.
Okay.
I've done the put it all in a pack and live off the pack. Usually, if I do that, I'm making peanut butter and jellies and
Yeah,
throwing them in a bag
sure.
and just
Yeah.
eating those, or maybe some like dehydrated meats.
Yeah.
And going that way. But I'm not opposed to pulling up the car either.
Yeah.
And hey, let's fill the car up with everything we need. Stay here for a couple nights, and for those ones, it's a different style because you have all of the essentials that you need. But what I love most is like at nighttime, you have the fire going and you're just sitting there and looking up at the stars. I love a clear night. I love to be able to look up and see the heavens and just all the constellations. I'm kind of a geek about it. So
Me too.
yeah,
It's such a shame that like we can't really see it because of light pollution. Like
there's some places where you can go that is a little bit better.
you have to tell me those. sometime.
You were in Hawaii, so
That's what I was about to,
you
yep.
probably saw some amazing.
Yep, that's what I was about to say.
views.
Is the best time I ever saw the stars was probably on the North Shore of Hawaii. But the thing about Hawaii, at least on Oahu, is there's a lot of lights there too.
Yeah.
But like when I was in Palau, it was like, what, dude? Because like I don't think a lot of people realize like you can see the Milky Way if there's no light pollution. Like you can see the entirety of it. It looks very clear. Like I don't know if I remember my grandpa was telling me a story about this guy named Dusty Bensko. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He was like coaching in Chicago, like inner city, and then he brought his kids down for a tournament, and then on the way back, he had the bus driver like pull off into a side country road and told all the kids to get off because they had never seen stars before. And because like
Wow.
way out in the country, the inner city kids of Chicago, it's like
Yeah.
they're like, what? Like
They're like, there's a couple dots up there that we can see, but there's the bright ones. I mean, you go out in the country and you can really see them. I grew up doing a lot of like horse stuff. My grandma had a horse, and then I would spend time at the farm and clean stalls, basically. And in return, I got to ride horses, which was fun.
That's awesome.
And so at nighttime, it's out in the middle of nowhere, like near Lincoln, Illinois.
Mhm.
Okay, now drive further out into the country around there. And you just get a blanket, throw it out there in the pasture at night, look up, you'll see
Wow.
on to forever, And I don't know if you've seen any of the like James Webb telescope things. You should look up some of the photos or put them over this, and you can see some amazing, like, here's the unfiltered view of the cosmos just in a direction.
That's so insane. I took an astronomy class in high school and it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, like just
The depth of it all.
So
You can
humbling.
watch that one video where it's like going from a zoomed in on a person and then it zooms you out to like, here's
All
the
the different
depth
stars.
of the universe, so to say, what they think.
it's oh my gosh.
But who
Is
knows?
that where it zoomed out all the way and it's like the purple web?
Here's the
looking
orc.
thing?
Yeah, here's the orc cloud or whatever.
Yeah, I don't.
Exactly, it's the purple web
It's so
thing.
humbling, isn't it? It's like because we were talking about
For a while, you're like, oh yeah, there's the Earth. Oh,
Where?
okay, there's not even a pixel small enough to showcase the Earth. Oh, now there's not even a pixel small enough to show the sun.
Yeah. So okay, okay, now we're getting so like I know like the Bible says, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bible, from my understanding, is like 1/3 of the universe is in darkness or whatever. Is that what it says?
I'm not sure.
I'll have to relook at that again. But from what I think I read, and I don't know, but wait a minute, did you ever find where they found Noah's Ark at?
Yeah, it said it was Mount Ararat.
In Turkey?
Okay,
Yeah, I'll have
cool.
to look that up.
Yeah, I'll definitely look it up.
Yeah, that's cool. But
What?
yeah, that's cool. What was that going on about?
Your telescope.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So like man, like
You
here's-
said 1/3 of the.
yes, okay, yes. 1/3 of the universe is like potentially in darkness.
Mhm.
Let's even if not, do you think that there's other worlds with life in the universe? I mean, I feel like there would have to be. That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't necessarily doubt that we're alone. I think most probable is that there's life outside of the Earth.
Yeah. And again, this is kind of dabbling in the weeds and like
I don't know.
This is stuff that we're not gonna know.
U.S. Congress just said that, UFOs exist. So they call them UAPs now. So call it
Really?
what you want, but UFOs exist.
Because he was just saying that the other day. Mudra was just telling me that. And
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I don't believe you. But
Yeah.
I believe you now.
I might need to be corrected on this, but I believe the Mexican government confirmed that there are aliens.
Really?
I think they said they found one. I'm not sure if this is true
Wow.
or not. So
So
it might have been a headline, and I was
Gosh.
like, "What?" And then I read the first paragraph, and I was like, "Huh, weird."
because
Next,
yeah, it's weird. My instantly my train of thought goes towards when I think of aliens is like, what's God's relationship with them? Because obviously, I believe He would create them all, but like, let's say let's say there's other planets that have fallen into sin. You think Jesus visited those planets too?
I'm not sure, but if there are aliens, and they come to Earth, I think we have to evangelize to them.
What does that mean? Can you explain that further?
That we should share the good news of Jesus to them.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know. My grandma's always said that.
that's so crazy. Because like, what if
She lives in El Paso, Texas, which is known to see UFOs, though. So,
yeah,
because it's the desert,
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, I was in El Paso like a year ago. It's fine.
Yeah.
But no, that's like, because I think like, what is Jesus? Is Jesus just making his rounds right now? Like, I mean, I don't know, but man, I like to think that they wouldn't be just attack immediately, especially if there's already been UFOs and stuff found. That goes to show, I think, that they're probably not gonna like, I don't know. There's so many different theories, but no one really knows. What if they're studying us? What if they're gaining intel? What if they're, I don't know.
My personal thought is that if they have traveled so far, they've probably bypassed violence.
You think they're studying? They would be studying us, kind of, or just kind of observing? I don't know.
I don't know.
Meddling.
But if they did get here, I would imagine that their society would have found a way to be peaceful.
Yeah.
So
Do you think it's ever possible to inhabit like other? You think humans will leave Earth at any point, or do you think God will allow it to go that far?
yeah, I don't know about that. Humans have already left Earth in the form of space travel, so that's happened.
I guess I mean like
Yeah,
in
like-
terms of settlement.
A settlement. The Bible says that the earth will fade away like a cloth at some point. And humans do have a way of surviving, it seems like, through trials and tribulations. I don't know if when the earth fades away like a cloth, if that means that Jesus has returned to for his redemption and coming back in Revelation. If that means that there's going to be a new heaven and new earth at that point, then obviously no one's going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I could see people possibly going and, living on a spacecraft for extended amount of time. They do on the space station.
Yeah, that's what I know. That's what Jeff Bezos is trying to do, is make the floating space colonies, whereas Elon Musk is more focused on colonizing Mars.
I think both of those guys are focused on money. So it makes a lot of sense for them to want people to do that.
Yeah.
And whichever one of them gets there first will make a astounding amount of money. I doubt either of those two people will live on either of those colonies.
That's a very interesting point. You're probably right. Yeah.
They have shareholders to speak to.
Yeah.
And they have to continue running their company that makes millions and millions of dollars every year.
That's what it always comes back to, right?
It's
Money and power.
materialism.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
money and power. It's like, it kind of reminds me of like in my class, like the one class where I like don't really like that much. One of the professor like found out that I was a veteran, and we were talking about like war films. And he like kept calling on me, and I'm like, man, like, oh, like I don't know.
Is
like,
this real?
Yeah, pretty exactly. Like in the military,
An American Sniper,
I'm like,
it's a movie.
yeah, exactly, bro.
No, it's not real.
I'm like, is that how the military is? I'm like, dude, because it's like, and I'm more open than a lot of veterans about talking about my experience and stuff. But it's like whenever I meet someone for the first time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was in the Army, and they're like, how was it? It's like, where do I even begin? What do I even say? Like,
Do you
it's
have a
fine.
couple hours?
Yeah, yeah.
You want to get a cup of coffee?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was great. It was awful. Like, I met my best friends in the Army. Like, and like, I think about the Army, like, literally every single day. And me and my best friend, we still talk, like, every single day. But, you know, because you go from living this adventurous lifestyle of rappelling out of helicopters.
It made up 20% of your life.
Yeah.
So,
And all of my adult life, essentially.
right.
You know, I enlisted when I was 17. I just got out last year. And I haven't even, like, had a full year out yet. And so it's like, it's a lot to think about, but like you go from living this adventurous lifestyle, traveling all the time, doing all kinds of crazy things, shooting all kinds of weapons, to just now I'm here and I'm in college, and it's really easy to slip into that mood of like, oh, my life is just sucks now. My life is just, but that's totally not true. And I think that that's like a big thing that veterans struggle with. And I think that having that connection to Christ has helped me so much, because I can, like, man, like I said, like, this house is such a blessing. Like, everything that I have is a straight blessing. And that's how I think that's literally the truth. And like I was saying, like, following God and doing all the things with God, like, I don't follow God because I want a reward. I don't think that, I'm not even expecting one, but I believe it to be right and true. And it's so apparent. I don't know, like the biggest like, switch for me, I guess, was when I really took like a real step of faith the past 2 years, was when it came to tithing. And when I was just getting out of the Army, and I had nothing really, and I was like, and then Chip gave that message on the tithe challenge, and I was like, screw it. So I did it, and ever since then, it's like I just been blessed, and it's just like, man, like it's such a reassurance to me. It's such a comforting thing, like knowing that God is with you all the time, because we were talking about like the three persons, and how like the Holy Spirit is with you, and then God the Father, God the Son, like you can encounter them, but you know when you encounter them, and it's different. And it's like, I just like, for so long I was in a period of like, I don't see God, I don't know where he is, and then I prayed about it, kept going to church, and then he revealed himself to me. And so that's like even like growing up in the church, like I was baptized as a young child, and I had no clue what it meant. Like I did not even know what it meant. I never really encountered Spirit until I was at CIY one year, and then I did, and I got baptized, and I kind of been going back and forth, and then like the past 2 years, I really, really stepped into my faith, and it's been really good. And it's just it's realizing that God is a person, and like you build a relationship with him, like, because I was just learning things about him, but I wasn't getting to know him. So now that I am getting to know him, and I go through these challenges of exiting the Army, feeling excluded, yada, yada, yada. All my best friends that I lived, ate, slept with, are now dispersed all across everywhere, and I don't get to see them. And it's like, it's really easy for veterans to slip into this, like, no one understands, like the victim mindset, like, oh, no one understands, or I'm just different. And I think that's just, I think part of that is kind of just like stepping up to the plate and puffing your chest out a little bit and being like, no, it's time to freaking anchor down and just man up and deal with it. But the biggest like crisis is what's got me through it. So I know I kind of bounced around all over the place there, but that's kind of like what's going through my head.
God can and will change your life if you allow him into your heart.
Yeah, man. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up here?
Man, I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm thankful to be able to just come out and talk to you for a little bit. And you're my brother, so I love always coming out here, and just anytime I get to talk to you, it's a joy. Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate you too, brother. And we'll have to do some again.
Hey, this is season 2. So season 3, I'm willing and ready to come up.
Sweet.
Or whenever.
Yeah. So like I was saying,
have someone bail. Call me up.
It's probably gonna be dependent on the football seasons is probably when I'm gonna be doing my break.
I get that. I'm gonna be busy for football season 2 because my plan is to continue doing broadcasting during that time, and it's busy. I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have to prepare in a different way than you, but there's definitely preparation involved on my side, plus holding down a full-time job at the same time.
Yeah.
You got school this year too.
Yeah, school.
Good luck.
Yeah, schools, I mean, honestly, it's so funny that, like, school's, like, really, like, I think it's pretty easy. Like, compared to the Army, compared to being in the Army,
yeah.
it's like...
You're like, cakewalk.
Because, I mean, like, in the Army, it's like you don't really go home. Like you are at work, you're a soldier 24/7. You're a soldier 24/7. So like, you know, they'll come in your room, and I've told you many stories about all the different things that happen, and it's like now it's like I go to class and I'm a student, and I come home and I'm Mason again. You know, and it's like I can choose what I would do in my time. And it's not, I don't feel like I'm bogged down to campus like I did in the Army, like to where it's totally consuming everything. So like school's a breeze. Like I got to go through, I got to spend time doing homework, and I kind of have gotten to the point where I'm able to narrow it down to spend the least amount of time on homework as possible. Because like when it comes to college, this is my theory here, right?
You're expediting it.
Yes, because I am trying to bull rush through and just get it done. Because whenever they're like a perfect example is like in math class, and I don't have to take a math class, but this is just an example that kind of correlates. Like whenever they say you're not allowed to use a calculator, why? Like if I go to a real world,
You'll be using it.
you'll be using it. Like if I get hired to do a real world, solve a real world problem, I'm going to use every single resource available to me, whether it be other people, whether it be online, whether it be AI, whether it be whatever. And so it's like I think I don't know. We could go on a whole nother thing about the education system. That's what I want to talk to Brody about, because he's been a teacher for like 15 years.
Perfect.
But
yeah.
like what is the education system? What is it, and what is it supposed to be? What do you think it should be? But I'm gonna go into that with him, because like I don't know. I think the education should be like about preparing you for the real world and not just completing a task, which I think is kind of a little bit turned into that. Like I don't know. That's a whole nother thing, but.
For sure. Yeah. And take advantage of your teachers in the specific places where you want to be. Film, audio, all of those things that you have a passion about. Utilize what they have to offer while you have them there in front of you. Some of the other little classes,
Yeah.
Like you said, go all in, be extreme with it, whatever you got going on, like put 100% of yourself into the class, and then, get out of it what you put in.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to plug? The West Side channel?
If you're interested in any of the things that I talked about regarding faith, you can just go to Westside wschurch.org. There's information there about learning more about Jesus Christ.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure. So
yeah.
Alrighty.
Thanks for having me, dude.